Thanks, Steve. So yeah, hi, I'm Anthony Ferguson, Deputy Director in DfT, and kind of overall responsible for making sure that TTF continues and delivers what it can do. Amazing to think that we were in Bristol almost exactly a year ago in a packed room. We were worrying about where the toilets and the croissants were. And there was a little bit of chatter in the corridors about this COVID thing, which I don't think we'd really fully understood yet. And Phil Blythe, our Chief Scientific Advisor, was wandering the corridors asking people about what data they could supply that we might need in terms of managing COVID. But I'm glad to say that actually the TTF played a big part in responding to that challenge and was instrumental in gathering new forms of traffic data and transport data that has been really helpful in understanding what's been going on with COVID. But that's the last 12 months, and I think we all know what's been going on in the last 12 months. It's probably the next 12 months that's perhaps more interesting. So let's look forward. TTF is essentially a community of expert interest. That's what Steve was kind of alluding to. Kind of perhaps a slightly niche set of interests, but actually increasingly I'd say it's beyond the kind of just the kind of traffic and transport technology sector, because a lot of the things we're thinking about now where TTF can add value are in areas that really wouldn't have been part of the discussion some time ago. But overall, I think the important thing to say is with TTF that bringing that community of people together, the case for doing that seems to me is as strong as ever. And the recovery from COVID will need us to play a big part. And that's because transport and technology always have gone hand in hand and will continue to do so. So what's coming next in 2021? I think probably the biggest thing to say is that the year's going to end in Glasgow with COP26, which is a really big deal. John Kerry was talking about it, the previous candidate for presidency in America, talking about Glasgow as being a kind of a pivotal moment for the world. So I think it's fair to say that the government and ministers are investing a lot of time and effort in COP26, and that's because decarbonisation as a theme is going to be one of the biggest, most dominant themes of the year, and our ambitions for it are very high. And actually, some of the roots go deep and have been around for the whole of the COVID experience. Because if you think back to last July, we published Gear Change, which was the vision for walking and cycling. We have our plans for decarbonisation, which are going to set out kind of all our ambitions across all of transport soon. We have a national bus strategy that's coming out soon, which will set out how we want buses to play a part in the recovery. And of course, we continue through look at the future of transport and the nature of technology and new forms of mobility. So all of these strands come together in a way with decarbonisation, because they're all trying to achieve the same single goal, which is to decarbonise transport. And it's a good thing in a way that although COVID has had a big impact and will influence a lot of what's coming next, it hasn't actually stopped us doing things. If anything, it's accelerated something. So by the beginning of July last year, it was still true that an electric scooter couldn't be used anywhere legally in England other than in your back garden. And now we're running 30 trials across the whole country. So there's been a lot of effort and energy through COVID, which will continue through and beyond. So I think decarbonisation is going to be one of the themes that we need to think very hard about, so that everything that we're doing is kind of helping to deliver the decarbonisation of transport. And we're going to do that through ever more digitalisation of transport, because it's a way to unlock more efficiency, to encourage innovation. So again, these are themes that have been running for several years now, and have a long and proud history in the UK in terms of traffic technology in particular. And the digitalisation of transport is going to be underpinned with data, because and it's become a cliche to say, but it is true that data is the underpinning of a lot of the innovation in transport that we're seeing. And it's no accident that the team that I I manage in the department currently accounts for a very large part of the department's data projects, and that's because there's a lot to do still, both in terms of the infrastructure and the user, and thinking about how the curbside is managed, how parking is managed. Transport lends itself to digital and to data, and I think those are going to be themes that will continue to be with us, and which the TTF can be a big contributor to. We've made good progress with the TTF, I think it's fair to say, in its sort of its second phase with our friends from ARAP. We've produced lots of good events, good documentation, brought together some of the learnings about projects that we've run, some thought leadership in documents like the State of the Connected Nation, which are helping to crystallize where we think we're at and where we're going, which I think is kind of helping all of us. So this feels like a really good time to me to kind of reset what the TTF is, what we're interested in, and how it's going forward. And I don't see this as niche at all. I see this as mainstream. Everything that we're talking about is contributing directly to things that matter to government, that matter to people. And so I think it's quite important that we rely on the expertise we have, but we see that the contribution we're making is very much part of the kind of mainstream of making transport better. So thanks very much to everyone who's put this all together. Particularly, I should give a shout out to Darren Capes, who's been kind of the author of most of it from our end, to all our colleagues in ARAP, to all the speakers and the sponsors, to Paul Hutton for making this feel like we're on Radio 1, which is excellent, and of course to Steve for chairing the whole event. And at that point, I'll say thanks, have a good conference, and back over to you, Steve.